So this is diving into the details, wading through products with Beth Stroshane and David Axt. So Beth Stroshane is the founder and managing partner of Applied Building Information, otherwise known as ABI. She has the CSI's Construction Documents Technologist exam, is a certified construction specifier, and a LEED Legacy accredited. She is also an active volunteer with the Lean Construction Institute, LCI, and the Construction Specifications Institute, CSI. She served as the CSI Puget Sound president from 2014 through 2015, and is currently the Northwest Region Education Chair from 2021 to current. Previously, Beth spent 8 years working as an in-house specifier for 2 large architecture firms in the Seattle area before starting Applied Building Information. She began her career working as a construction engineer for a local construction company. Beth earned 2 undergraduate degrees from the Milwaukee School of Engineering, a Bachelor's of Science in Architectural Engineering, and a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management. So Beth is going to be our first speaker today. Our second speaker is going to be David Axt. David is an independent specifications writer with Axt Consulting LLC. David's firm specializes in preparing architectural and structural specifications for K-12 educational, multifamily, fire stations, community centers, museums, libraries, retail, and industrial types of projects. David has earned his Construction Documents Technology, CDP, and Certified Construction Specifier, CCS, from Construction Specifications Institute. He is also a member of the Specifications Consultants in Independent Practice, SCIP, and Seattle Building Enclosure Council, CBEC. David is currently the president-elect and a director on the Puget Sound chapter CSI. So thank you, David, as well for speaking to us today. And then I wanted to do a quick thank you and blurb for our Class 3 sponsor, which is RIB North America, formerly BSD. RIB was built by innovative design professionals who are committed to moving the industry forward. Made up of experienced architects, engineers, and specification writers, and software and data experts, RIB North America is passionate about improving the specification process. Since 1983, its SpecLink product has provided advanced collaborative specification, content, and interoperability solutions to more than 25,000 building owners and design professionals. RIB North America pioneered the use of cloud technology for specifications and was the first company to offer seamless BIM integration. Its vast industry reach also benefits building product manufacturers who are specified by name more than 1 million times per year. In addition to the products and services developed by BSD, the RIB North America product portfolio includes the MTWO Construction Cloud, offering contractors, owners, and developers an integrated 6D BIM enterprise cloud platform that enables all teams on construction projects to perform their day-to-day work and collaborate through the project lifecycle in the same platform. Visit bsdspeclink.com to learn more. So now that the introductions are over, we're going to start up with Beth, followed by David. And once again, just a reminder, if you guys have any questions throughout, please put it in the chat and we will make sure to get this started. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Beth, if you want to take it away.
Sounds good. Okay, so first I get to talk about products, and I'm going to explain this kind of like, the industry version of what things are, and then, translated to human, which is part of the challenge of specifications. There's a lot of information and lots of it is packed full of jargon. So a big thing that we're trying to do with this 101 class is getting the information about specifications condensed down and translated to humans so that you can figure out, this is something I want to do and is fascinating, or maybe not. So like Melissa said, I've been writing specs for a long time, and I do it because I think it's fascinating. All this stuff is really interesting to me, so I hope you find it fascinating as well. So we're starting with, what is a product? According to CSI, products are configurations of various materials that are manufactured into a self-contained unit that has certain physical properties. Okay, that makes your head spin. Okay, here is the definition according to me. Something in the building purchased from a manufacturer that will tell you how to install it. So there's, Kelly Bryant is on here. He's a roofing manufacturer's rep. John Gallup is on here. He's got a Latinacrete installation, I think is who he's working with. So those are products. They come in a box with instructions. So that's a product. There's other things like, this roofing material and these solar panels, products come in a box, there's instructions. Then there's other things that are in a building. What is a material? So from Construction Specifications Institute, material tends to be naturally occurring substances, compounds, liquids, or resources that are extracted, harvested, recycled, processed, or otherwise converted from a raw state into an asset with desirable physical properties usable for the construction of facilities. Another mind-spinning definition. Okay, see if we can simplify that down a bit. It's something in the building that the manufacturer will not tell you how to install, right? So if you have a board or a CMU block or, a hunk of stone, the manufacturer of the hunk of stone, which is earth, is not going to tell you how to install it. So it comes in a box with no instructions. So you need to look to industry organizations for guidance on how to install that thing. So it's things like these hunks of wood. Now there are industry organizations like, CSI is a professional services organization, but there are industry organizations like APA, I think, which is engineered wood, and other organizations that will tell you how to take this hunk of wood and how to make it into trusses or a structural member. So that's the difference between products and materials. Okay, there's one more thing that we do all the time that everybody lumps into products that's not. Okay, what are assemblies and fabrications? So according to the practice guide, assembly and fabrications are configurations of materials and products that are assembled, fabricated, built, formulated, or mixed on site or off site prior to install or incorporation into the work. Okay, so what would be an example of that? Oh, let's start with what is that translated to human? Translated to human is it's something in the building that somebody assembled or created or added labor to. So if a box of stuff comes to your house from IKEA and your 15-year-old assembles it for you, they've done the fabrication. So they took it out of the box, they put all the nuts and bolts in it, and now it is a thing. So that is how fabrication can be. So if we're not thinking about IKEA, we're thinking about curtain wall. So the glass is a product, the extrusions are a product, the coatings are a product, or a material. Extrusions are really a material. It depends. So there's blurred lines in through all of these things. So if it seems confusing, you're not alone. That's because it is. And because it changes depending on the manufacturer. So this curtain wall, the glass is a product from one manufacturer, and then a curtain wall fabricator will cut it to the right size, install all the accessories, and put together the correct configuration for the building. You and I couldn't order curtain wall, have it delivered, and then install it. Special fabrication and knowledge is needed for that. So that's a fabrication assembly. So I want to, if you didn't come to the first specification or the first one of these classes, I want to circle back to what is a good specification. So if we win, we do a good job with specifications, we get all the products specified. It is a specification that delivers the owner what they paid for. So if the owner wants a red Ram truck, and that is all that we include, all 4 of these are red Ram trucks. So provided by the lowest bidder, one of these 2 is probably going to be what shows up, which is fair. They complied with the performance criteria that you listed. So if you want to eliminate these two, you talk about that it has to be a 2022 model. It has to have X amount of towing capacity. It can't have been in service more than X amount of time. So what you want to show up is going to dictate how much information you need to specify. So think about the red Ram trucks and why you might need more performance criteria than just that. Okay, so, and it's different. This is why we started with product material and assembly, because what you need to specify is different for those things. So if it's a product, it's going to come out of a box and it's by a manufacturer who will tell you how to install. So you need the name of the product, and this is assuming that you can list the name of the product. There are some delivery methods where you can't list this product by name, so you skip that part and you move down to performance criteria. So if your delivery method doesn't allow you to list the name of the manufacturer, then find the product that you want and look at its performance criteria is how you kind of get there. David will go into different sources later. So assuming that I can say what product I want, the basis of design is going to be a trim-proof 6100 by Tremco. Okay, great. So what the goal of this line is to get people to the right store. Okay, great. So assume, have you ever sent anybody, your little brother, your husband, your wife to the grocery store to buy something that you usually buy? They're vaguely aware that they eat it and that it shows up in their fridge, but they've never purchased it. And so having someone else go purchase it is what you're doing. Specifications are where you're writing a grocery list for someone you do not know and will probably never meet to buy all the pieces of the building for the owner. So what do you need? The manufacturer gets them to the right store. And then it starts to break down what the different pieces are and what the performance criteria of those are. And part of the performance criteria is super important because you may not realize that there's 3 different versions of the same product. So if you list the performance criteria, then you'll make sure you get the product that you actually need on the job. So things like, I want 90 mils. The breakdown of the mils is this much. I mean, so those are the kind of things that you want. And you don't necessarily need an entire laundry list of every single performance criteria that they list. You need to list the ones that are sacred to you. So in waterproofing, that's things like thickness. That's things like elongation, because if there's a crack, you want it to stretch. And things like toughness, water absorption. So those are the things that you would list for performance criteria, even if Tremco has, 80 ASTMs listed. Okay, so what do you need for a material? So this example, I'm using a CMU block. So I will say, because this is a decorative one, that it is based on products listed by Mutual Materials. But a concrete block doesn't come with an instruction manual on how to use it. So we talk about what the CMU has to comply with. And then later on, we'll talk about what does the mortar have to comply with, what does the rebar have to comply with, because those are all materials. And we'll list their performance requirements for them so that we can get the right one. But they don't necessarily have a distinct brand name. It's concrete block by Mutual Materials. Okay, so what do we need for assemblies and fabrications? Remember, these are the things that somebody else is providing labor for. So that becomes really important because you want, good experienced labor. So you do not want me installing concrete block unless it's really easy. I did it once. Well, I did it about a dozen times with my dad when I was 12, right? But my experience is not advanced and it is not current. So I would not be qualified to, build a school that David specified for the concrete block that's on that school. So this is where it becomes more important to have manufacturer's qualifications. We want someone who's been doing this for 10 years. Okay, we want installer qualifications. We want someone who's been doing this level of concrete block install or curtain wall installation for 5 years, right? So it kicks out me when I was 12. And also the performance criteria that they have to come to, that the whole system has to comply with when you get done. So those are kind of some of the big important things to make sure you specify if you're doing assemblies and fabrications. Okay, so coming back to what we need to specify for different things. If I'm trying to specify this red Ram truck, I would say that I want it to be a 2500 because that's the level of towing capacity I want currently for my owner. But the problem with that is this one's a 2500 too. And the owner wants it to be new, so they have the longest service life for it. So we can say that it's new. We would include towing capacity. We would include all of the things that you would have to plug into the Ram truck website or at your local Ram dealer to make this truck show up. So those are the things that you would need to specify. You would not need to specify the engine oil likely, because that's not going to differentiate one truck from the other. So those are the kind of things that you want to think about when you're thinking about what do you need to include. What do you need to include so that the contractor can show up on site with what the owner wants and paid for? Okay, because here is what we are doing to the owner. We are to the contractor. They are showing up in the milk aisle, and we told them, we want you to bring us a gallon of milk. So if you have blindly gone to the milk aisle lately, you know that there is 1%, 2% skim, whole, and then there's a whole other world that has everything from, coconut to soy milk. So we need to be specific about what the owner wants so they get the truck they want, the waterproofing they want, and the milk they want. So next, I'm going to hand it over to David, who's going to talk about the research it takes and where to find this stuff, because I'm telling you, we do not all, make it up in our office every day. So I am going to stop sharing, and then David can share.
And I'm going to start sharing. Okay, everybody see that? No, there. There we go. Hang on a minute.
Yes.
Okay, hang on a minute. Okay. So for me, writing specifications, the most fun and probably the most aggravating is the research part of it. I got this quote from something that was sent to me, and Beth had kind of mentioned it. We don't just make this stuff up. We actually find this information and repeat it in our specifications. Let me go through a little history. Way back when, there used to be a thing called Sweets Catalog. I don't know if anybody remembers those, but there used to be at least maybe 20 volumes. The 6 that you see here is just a portion of it, and they took up bookshelves after bookshelf after bookshelf. Every year they got smaller and smaller and smaller, and they were comprised of manufacturers' product literature, and they just eventually went away. Individual product binders, people are familiar with that. They are falling out of favor, and I'll talk a little bit about that.
David, are you advancing your screen?
No, oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
There we go. Excellent.
Thank you for reminding me. So loose product literature is still used. There's other resources out there. Trade and design magazines. it seems like every association has got their own magazines, and it's good resource for introducing materials, or kind of serendipity, kind of stumbling across something you didn't know you needed until you saw it. Physical samples, usually interiors and finishes, colors. You need to touch. There's no way to really specify a color accurately, even if you have a great monitor, unless you actually see the physical sample, the physical paint chip, the physical metal coil coating. And then sometimes we just need to touch, feel, and smell it in order to get the information to specify it. And then I put in here small mock-ups or assemblies, showing how things go together. There again, sometimes you can see pictures, but if you see it in real life, get a little better grasp of how it's put together. Now, online resources, of course, since the internet, things have just exploded. And that's why the Suites catalog went away, is because there's much better resources, much better up-to-date resources. Here's a few that I have used that are basically like the Suites catalog, where I call them a library. And I'll show you in a minute what they look like. Some of them look like. I use ForSpecs a lot. I don't use ARCAD or Suites catalog. I have on occasion, but for some reason I default to ForSpecs. When you get into ForSpecs, this is the first part that you see. These are usually listed in the master format numbering system. It's how the products are broken down. It's like the old Suites catalogs. These would be the different divisions. Let's say you were looking for access panels, access doors. I mean, you go to division 8, which would take you to this screen. Scroll down through these numbers, find access doors and panels. This would give you then the listing of the different manufacturers that have access panels. I only took a small screenshot of this. And then from there, you would click on the manufacturer and go to the manufacturer's website. But this is good if you didn't know what manufacturer made access doors, you would get a listing here. Also, if I can point out on ForSpecs, one of the reasons why I like it is they have a discussion forum. Can you guys see my pointer? And also,
Yes, we can.
a really good thing is this changes, which indicates what companies have bought out, what companies have gone out of business. So that's saved me a lot of time and grief. So then once you go to the manufacturer's websites, you see they've got other things than just access doors. Another good online resource is just Google or Bing or the other internet search websites. I just plugged in Sherwin-Williams here and came up with a bunch of information, contact information for my local my paint stores. It also was interesting. It showed what paint companies other people had searched for and gave me a little background. Everybody's familiar with Google. It's really good if you know what you're looking for. The other day, somebody was talking about Kebony, which I'd never heard of before. So I went to Google to look that up. So then when you get to the manufacturer's websites, the advantage over paper literature is less trees cut down, less that goes in the trash or recycle. Here's something I just realized the other day, more than one person can look at the same products. I remember wandering around firms I worked at saying, who's got this binder? Who's got this binder? Whereas now everybody can look at the same product at the same time. You can be on the phone talking to somebody and both be on the same website checking out the products. It has They usually have the latest and greatest product literature, as opposed to binders, which tend to get it, once you print it, it's out of date. And unless you've got a rep that can, or a manufacturer that's sending you updates of that information, it gets out of date pretty quickly. Another advantage is you can take that electronic product literature and email it around to other people for their approval or review or comment. Or they will send me copies about what they want to see in the specifications. You can store it electronically. A lot of clients that I work for, all the products that they want in the specifications, they have a folder on their company's website that they just put everything in, and the interior designer can look at it, the structural engineer can look at it. I have access to it. Everybody can be reading off the same page, so to speak. Current installation and pictures is always nice. Usually is on a website. The pictures would be of the products being installed or actually installed. Guide specifications. Sometimes the manufacturer's guide specifications are okay. Mostly not, but at least I can grab information from the specification and put it into my own specifications. Rarely do I grab a manufacturer's specification and just use it verbatim. Rarely. Installation videos. I'm going to talk about this just a little bit later, but that's always a nice thing to see, is how it's actually installed. And then it has the contact information. Here's the disadvantage. Big one is you need a computer and an internet connection. If you're, although that said, everybody's got a phone, and there's usually Wi-Fi on every job site and in every office, so that's getting to be less and less a problem. But sometimes you want to show somebody something, and that's where a paper copy might be advantageous. And then sometimes for record keeping, you need to print out a paper copy, which also can be a disadvantage. Now, here's the big three disadvantages. Website's hard to navigate. It seems like the bigger the company and the more the product line, the more difficult it is to navigate. Some of these huge conglomerate companies have got distribution and manufacturing throughout the world. They make automotive parts, they make stuff for aerospace, medical, consumer, and we're just kind of interested in the building products. And sometimes it takes lots of weeding through to find the information that you're looking for. And then on the flip side, some of the smaller companies, their websites just have their name and their phone number. They don't have information that we are looking for. Or a company, I have found this, a company has the information, but they want you to contact them in order to get the information, which is a real hassle if you're working on the specifications at night and it's due first thing in the morning. Factories on the East Coast and they're already closed. And then the biggest offender of all is some websites require registration for you to get the information. I understand why they're trying to do this, but sometimes you just want to, you're doing, what do you call it? You're just looking around. You're not interested in specifying the product, but you're just kind of curious about it. And they make you register with all the information about the product or the project. I had one the other day that I was trying to find out information on floor covering, and it would not let me access the information unless I told them how many square feet of floor covering was going to be installed. I don't know. Could be 10 square feet, could be 10,000, could be 10 million. It still requires a specification. And I wonder how many companies trust that data, because I know a lot of people don't know or lie just to get past that into the information they need. Here's some other areas of research: the industry standards, ASTMs, ANSI, UL, association standards. They're littered throughout our specifications. We need to know what's in those. Industry, association, publication, magazines, websites, contacts. Books. I've got behind me, if you can see, I've got a bunch of books on practically every topic. Always good and useful. Codes. Probably don't look at them as much as I should, but the great thing about a lot of the codes is they're online, and an advantage over printed is you can search for a term. The other day I was looking for information on anchor bolts, and I could just search for the term anchor bolt, and it would show up every place that there was an anchor bolt. And then newsletters. Those are usually good for introducing new products or information that has changed. Other areas of research: in-person meetings. I'm glad we're getting back to in-person meetings, and I'll make a plug for CSI. Product shows, CSI Prospect, we just had it. It was really successful down at Bell Harbor. I hope most of you attended. We're going to have it again next year, same place, about the same time. And then seminars, site tours, workshops, discussion panels. Those are usually the in-person meetings, whether it be CSI or another organization. And then YouTube videos. I'm finding more and more YouTube videos are very useful for finding out how something is installed, incorrect ways of installing something, how something is made. And I think, and I see more and more companies put that on their websites. And I think as our work crew, as English becomes less and less their primary language, instead of having a language barrier, it's easier for them to show a video. You know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, a video's worth 1,000 pictures.
And David, we've got
Yeah.
a question that came in from Will. He said, I was surprised to hear manufacturer's guide specifications aren't very good. I would have assumed that they'd be pretty robust. Is that they are too restrictive to their product, or that they are bad in some other way? I'll let you answer first, and then I'll provide commentary.
Well, I find a lot of times they're too excessive. They've been written by, like, for example, part 3, they've been written by the manufacturer's marketing person. So they have a lot of fluff in them. Or the installation instructions goes through, you know, how much they need to mix it, how much they need to pour it. It's good information, but it's not the information that we typically have in our 3-part CSI specifications. Like I say, some of them are very good, and some of them are just really pretty lousy. So not in a CSI format, not in a format that is information easily found in. Beth, what would you say?
I think that the challenge is, if you take a product like Soprema or Sherwin-Williams, they make 1,000 products. Right. So either they've put all 1,000 products in a single spec, and it is 85 pages long, and trying to find the 12 lines that you need is really problematic. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is they have 80 products. So then they have 80 spec sections, and you're trying to figure out which one of those spec sections applies to your instance. So that's the other challenge. So that's assuming that the information is good specs and it's all right. And like David said, if you've got a product, it comes in a box with installation instructions. The manufacturer spec may have been written 10 years ago, at which point they don't even have the right product in there. And so it's wanting to see what the right information to specify is, which is why David said that he'll look at a manufacturer spec and pull out the 12 lines that he needs. Because if I was making a building, a specification for a whole building, and I got the roofing manufacturer spec and the metal panel manufacturer spec and the toilet accessory manufacturer spec, oh, I have 12 different toilet accessories. So I would have 12 spec sections for toilet accessories. And so that's where you run into challenges with manufacturer specs, is you have to, they assume that a person with knowledge pulls the pieces out. So that's kind of it can be good, it can be bad, but just make sure you know what you're pulling from and don't just copy it, because you might get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have a manufacturer spec as something to go on and information I can pull than not have one at all.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks both.
And
Let me finish.
and we have a follow-up question from John. Oh,
Wait,
sure.
hold on, Dave's gonna finish.
Yeah, I need to finish this. I'm almost done. So the single best source of information on products is local product representatives. They know their products more than you do. I'm holding I don't know if you guys can see me, but I'm holding a brochure from a manufacturer that makes grouts and mortars, and it's 183 pages long. Like, I don't know all their products. They do. I don't know how many times I've spent a whole afternoon looking for something, called the rep, and they said, "Oh yeah, use this." Oh, geez, just wasted all that time. They also know their competitors' products, especially if you're doing public work. Got to have 3 equivalent products. Many times they have years in the industry, as far as sometimes they're even former contractors. So they've put the roofing down, or they've painted, or put up the wall paneling. They know installation applications and procedures and pitfalls. They have a history with the company. It's always nice to be able to call up and say, "What did we do on this previous project?" And they say, "Use this product." And then they'll say, "Well, don't use it because we've got a water-based product now that's a lot better. Use this product." They know where their products are installed locally and nationally. A lot of times I find architects are a little uncomfortable about a product they haven't used before, and it gives them a level of comfort if you can say, "Well, it's installed all over the UW campus on these different buildings. Just go over and take a look at it." They know the local distributors and installers. I've been to, we were talking earlier about product fairs, and seen some great products, but they weren't distributed west of the Mississippi. They're mostly East Coast products, so that doesn't do me much good out here. And then they can go take a look at installations that have already been done and work with the installers if there are any issues. So in conclusion, paper documents for the most part are going away. Loose literature will always be with us. It's just like Kindle never really replaced books. We'll always have books. Online resources getting better and better. Product representatives can be extremely helpful. And something Melissa wanted me to add is drawings plus product research equals specifications. And I would say good drawings plus good product research equals great specifications. So, okay, I am done.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Yeah, so David, we had a follow-up question from John in the comments. So this is, it was a little bit before you put on that last slide about product representatives. So it might be part of that, but if you can elaborate a little bit. So his question is, from your perspective as specification professionals, how can we as product reps best serve your role in the information age, particularly in light of what you've just described about manufacturers' specifications and websites?
I would say get after your manufacturers and make sure their websites are easily navigatable, have all good information on there. Beth, do you want to add anything?
I'm not going to hold my breath for that.
Yeah, I mean,
So
go ahead.
the thing that I want, just like we talked about, what you need to specify for a product, a material, or an assembly. That's what we as specifiers need so that we can talk our clients through it. So if we have a client that says, we need to stick tile to a wall under a urinal. Okay, excellent. That we can do that with Skippy peanut butter. Did you know? We can. It won't last very long, and it is not the best product for the job. So what we need from product reps is, okay, John reps Laddercrete. Why would I choose this product versus this product versus this product versus this product? Well, that one is for big fat tile. I don't have big fat tile. Okay, that one is for great big, really thin tile on walls. I don't have that either. Ooh, this stuff's really squishy, so you can put it in an elevator and your stuff won't crack. That's the one I want. I mean, so that's what product reps can help you navigate. I mean, the human who can explain how do I deal with my specific situation is really what product reps can provide. Even a great website will only have 80% of the information. I mean, and it's going to be the most used 80%. So everybody raise their hand who only does projects that land in that 80%. Nobody has a designer that, you know, tries to push that envelope daily. I mean, so that's where it's like, okay, I know your website says this. What do I do in this instance? So that's what local people are really useful for, which is why you join CSI or some other professional organization, so that you know John and his phone number, so you can ask him weird questions about Laddercrete without having to do it in a contractor meeting. Or to ask questions about substitution requests where they say, okay, they're subbing this product instead of this product within your product line. Why would they do that? And is it as good a product? Mm-hmm. And there's times where they're like, well, they're subbing our really bottom barrel product for the really high grade product that you specified. I can confidently say no. Or they may say, well, the product they're subbing actually costs them more money, but they can put it on thicker coats. Is it a small area they're putting it in? Yeah. Okay, so they're going to only be there one day. They don't need 2 mows. So they're spending more on material to save on labor, but the product's essentially the same when you get done. At which point I can guide my team to accept a substitution request because the contractor's trying to save labor and the product's going to be the same.
Right. The next question we have is, can you talk a little bit about the different product types where the manufacturers within that type all use different ASTM testing or different attributes? How do you align those? And can you talk a little bit, this is a little bit related, is how can you talk about unintentional sole sourcing, and in those situations, how you can make that happen by accident?
With the ASTM, I was just talking to Beth about this, where one manufacturer's compressive strength is this ASTM and another manufacturer's compressive strength is this ASTM, and how apples to oranges. It's a challenge. You have to look and see what the ASTM is actually testing for. I think some manufacturers go around and get tested at with different ASTMs, and to get the result that they want, they say, oh, here's our best one. But it's a challenge. I mean, I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
The first thing that I do is machete edit the performance criteria to the ones that are important to me. Mm-hmm. So you can get a manufacturer spec that has 27 ASTMs. Well, I care about 4. So if I eliminate the rest of them, then it can reduce the number of potential conflicts. And then that's where it's like, okay, so if I've got 2 products that I've used before, if you have access to a trusted manufacturer's rep, you can ask them, why are these 2 things like this? Or if you know the products are both within what you want and they list 2 different ones, you can say compressive strength this much according to this ASTM or that ASTM. And also just typing the ASTM numbers into Google to see if it's actually matches the title. Right? I've had products where I type in the ASTM, I'm like, okay, ASTM E84, I know what that is. Okay, no flaming stuff on the interior. Okay, ASTM Q738, like what? That's for like grocery bags. Why is that in here? And so that's for like brass finishing. There's no brass. So that's where you can pull those down to the ones that are important to you.
Great, thank you.
We're also, not evaluating products on just one characteristic. There's other, Beth may have mentioned, how long the manufacturer's been in business, and do they have a local rep? Do they have local installers? Where, there's a lot of than just looking at an ASTM number. So.
David, that actually brings into our next question, which is for you, is when you're talking about research and the different locations you can research, can you take us through what type of information you're looking for, what questions you ask, and how you know that research is complete?
Open-ended questions.
Well, that one's yours.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking for a lot of what Beth had described in her, talk about what are the salient qualities of the product. If it's a structural product, more interested in the structural characteristics. If it's a finished product, more interested in the look of it. What was it? How do I know if I've got everything? So part of the question. Can you read that again?
Yeah. So if you can take us, so in short, can you take us through what types of information you're looking for, what questions you ask, and how do you know when your research is complete?
Oh, research is never complete. Products are constantly evolving and changing, and like I was saying, different design disciplines are looking for different things. Interiors are looking for different things than the building envelope consultant, the civil engineer, the structural engineer. Like I say, it would have to identify as a specific product.
Right. So it sounds like it really depends on the product is what the answers
Yeah.
are. It's customizable per scope or per product type.
Yeah, and there's some things, I'd rather have the manufacturer and the literature show too much information than not enough. So as Beth was saying, we can decide what's important to us, what's not important to us.
So the reason we do research is to answer the question, is this the right product for this job? So if it has to be red, like, fabric that goes on a curtain that, doesn't have to do anything other than look like the interior designer wants it to look. You don't have to do, it's not where it can't catch on fire. It's not any of that stuff. All you need is the information to correctly specify and get the product that the owner wants to show up on site. Okay, so does it look like that? Is it that? Yes, okay, that's all the research you need to do. If it's, will this coating survived for 25 years in this location on this substrate in this color. Okay, that's going to take more research because there's more stuff that you're trying to figure out. So research is about answering questions and getting enough information to get what the owner wants to show up on site. And so one of the things that I hold in my head when I'm trying to figure out, okay, am I done doing research, is, okay, I've got a waterproofing system. What information do I need to prove that this waterproofing system is more appropriate for this job than a Walmart bag, right? Okay, so, a Walmart bag will hold water for a short period of time, as long as you don't touch it. And so that's where, if you can get that, that's the question you're trying to answer with your research. Is the product appropriate for the job? And you have the research to prove that it is.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other questions? Anybody want to ask them in person while you have these two on the line?
This is Justin. I've got a question for both of them. I think, especially when David was talking about the YouTube videos, kind of looking at how things are installed. And it makes me think about part 3, right? So you could simply just say install per manufacturer's written instructions, but obviously we have a whole lot more information in part 3. And when you're doing research, if you find a product that doesn't really have any kind of information, I mean, how do you decide what kind of information you really kind of put in part 3 just to make sure that as far as that execution goes, it goes correctly?
Well, one of the challenges I find is that different manufacturers have different way of installing about the same product. Some may require a primer, some may be self-priming. So it really is more dependent on the manufacturer's instructions. A lot of times in part 3, we list what we don't want. Don't put it on a wet substrate, don't put it on a dirty substrate. Make sure to clean it, make sure to protect it, things like that. Instead of getting into the nitty-gritty, mix part A 50% with part B 50%, let it sit for 3 hours.
And that question is expressly why I included the definitions for products, materials, and fabrications, because what you need in part 3 is wildly different for those 3 things. So like David said, he's talking about some products need primers, don't need primers, all that kind of stuff. We don't want to dictate what happens for a product. For a product that has installation instructions, we want you to install it just like the manufacturer said, so the manufacturer will warrant it.
Right.
So for products, that's what we want. Warranted installation of a quality product, done. Rubber stamp it, we're done. Okay, if you've got a material, okay, the forest is not going to tell you what to do with that rift cut white oak. Sorry. The CMU manufacturer, here you go, I delivered a pallet of blocks, I'm done. So with those, that's where you switch to industry organizations like AWI and WI for rift cut white oak, and the Masonry Institute of Washington for the CMU block. So that's where you start to get the installation. And then if it's something that is a fabrication, it's more, I want this on top of this, and I want this to do this, but what order you do it in. I mean, a fabricated item, that person fabricating has way more knowledge about it than you do. So mainly you want them to install it, all the products according to the manufacturer's instructions, and it needs to be laid out like this, and it has to provide these performance criteria. So it varies depending on whether it's a material, a product, or a fabrication.
Yeah, what we absolutely don't want to do is tell them to do something different and then it fails, because then it's on us.
Different than the manufacturer or the industry
Right.
organization.
Right,
Yeah.
or the ASTM or SMACNA or AWI or the other industry standards or industry associations and how they recommend it be put down. And there again, we specify so many products on a building. We don't know every product and how every product is installed and the ins and outs and the tips and the tray of the trade and items like that. That's where your good local representative would come into play.
They'll tell you if you did it wrong, quietly and nicely.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Just one question real quick, if I may, in light of that and Justin's question about the execution portion to both of you, and I realize the answer to this would vary from one division to the next, but are you specifying certified labor in your specs? And if so, how are you going about that, particularly in light of the ongoing labor challenges that we have in construction?
Right. Certified installers, especially for important items like roofing and waterproofing. I always make, specify that they've been approved by the manufacturer. That gets a little tricky because sometimes one person in the company gets approved and the people out in the field are not approved. But sometimes I'll even mention that a foreman or supervisor. I don't want to start dictating trade and how they should build, and who they should use, but definitely, like I say, certified installers.
And for me, that has to do with qualifications.
Yeah.
Right. And is there a way to qualify that, it's not me when I'm 12 installing concrete block?
Many times
part of that is experience. That's not necessarily a certification, because one of the things you need to watch out for is there will be industry organizations, 5 guys in an idea that say, we're going to do this new certification. And their guys might be the most brilliant 5 guys in, Mississippi. But us specifying those 5 guys in Mississippi in Washington is not going to help anybody. So if someone like John, who's excellent and means well, says you should specify these certified installers according to this performance, look up who locally that is. Because there's a coating installation that seemed like a brilliant idea, high performance coatings, you need this kind of installer, all of that. Figured out there is nobody in the Northwest 4 states that has that certification. So that doesn't help me at all. So those are the things to watch for with specific kinds of certifications, but definitely qualifications.
Yeah, sometimes in part 1, I'll mention that they have to have so many years experience doing a similar type project with similar type materials.
And you can ask for a list of those projects as a submittal.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of times the warranty won't go into effect unless they have certified factory trained applicators.
Yeah.
So some guy in a pickup truck can't just put it in.
Me when I'm 12, even though I think I'm really smart. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Hope this was helpful. Let us know if there's more questions. We're still evolving the last 4 or the 4th and 5th class of this. We could make a 6th if we really wanted. So send Melissa your questions and we'll keep doing classes on specifications and how to keep information flowing.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you so much to Beth and David for presenting today.